Hello, welcome to the 24th day of January 2022. My name is Kurt, and this is my Good Life Meditation, a daily exercise of reminding myself of my personal life objectives and principles, and then checking to see how I did yesterday applying these and to plan for the coming day. And here come the dogs. And by the way, Ollie's doing much better. He was a little bit out of sorts yesterday. Good morning, boys. Okay, first, yesterday. Oh, wow, so much to think about. It was really a good day. It was a day off. It was a Sunday. And so Yumiko and I, in the morning, as I mentioned yesterday, Ollie wasn't feeling so good, so we tended to him. He ate a good hearty breakfast. That was really good. He seemed to be in good shape by mid-morning. So we went ahead and went out. The dogs, the good thing about the house is that they have the door open. They can go out the back if they need to. Yumiko and I went down to Orange County to do our shopping there. I got a haircut. Do you want to come up here? Okay. Or do you want to sit on your little bed? I got a haircut. Yumiko dropped me off at Bishop's where I get my haircut, and I had a new guy. I had never had before. I think he did a good job. I liked him. Joshua was his name. Want to come up? Or do you want to sit down there? And after that, Yumiko went shopping. Well, she went shopping while I was getting my haircut. And after the haircut was done, she wasn't back. So I went to the Starbucks next door, and I had a nice tea while I sat outside and read my book. Really enjoying this book, Aristotle on the Nature of Man, which is just a select collection of his treatises on various things from biology to ethics. And it's one of those books that, did I really wait 58 years to study Aristotle in earnest? Almost 58 years. I'm getting so much out of it. And then, so as for challenges, there were a couple of things. One that really stood out was at the line I have at IKEA. If you know what IKEA is like, because even when I went to IKEA after she picked me up at Starbucks. Well, first of all, there was an incident with my mother. Did I mention that? I don't think I could have. She called me up in one of her ways, and she deliberately goes out of her way to cause trouble. I don't think I'm gossiping and saying that. It's simply a fact. It's been that way for decades, since I was a kid. And she did that. She went out. She would call deliberately to make trouble. I still haven't figured out exactly how to deal with that best in terms of, do I linger on the line and let her spew, so that I'm at least, stop keeping the connection. She always seems to complete it on her own. Anyway, what she said was hurtful, and moreover, it was hurtful to my wife, who actually overheard it. So that put me in a dilemma. Do I allow my mother to hurt my wife? No. Clearly, the answer to that is no. So I'm still working on that, thinking about how I'm going to do that. My wife understands, but still, she knows how she is. I'm still working on that one. It's funny that I didn't spend more time thinking about it yesterday. Yumiko and I had a very packed day. Okay, the other thing was, this is small but interesting. So at IKEA, we had loaded up with all kinds of stuff. I got a bookshelf, and Yumiko got all kinds of knickknacks. She's sitting up the guest bedroom downstairs. And so we had our 2 shopping carts full of stuff, came up to the IKEA, got into the long queue at IKEA, snakes. And there was this one couple that had come into IKEA with us. Do you know how you kind of have an IKEA cohort, right? When you go to a place like IKEA, you get in, and there are there's a group of people that entered the IKEA with you, and then as you snake through the place, you run into those same people because you're all part of that group. There was one couple that was with us, and they clearly there was a high tension going on between them. You remember the Feast of Offal thing? That vibe was spilling out over everyone around me, and I was picking it up, and I didn't give it much thought, but I did notice it. And then suddenly, when we were at the end, they appeared we were right before the checkout. They appeared with their cart with like 10 items, not very many, talking to our checker. I don't know where they kind of came out of the blue somehow. They got up to the front, and the checker was indicating that they had to go back and get in line because they had, remember they had not waited in line because they had they had wanted to go through and go back up to the top with their stuff. And she said, you can't leave without checking out first. So their as exasperated decision was to just cut in front of me and Yumiko. And I looked at them for just a second. They wouldn't look at me in the eye. And I looked at that for just a second. 20 years ago, I would have said, hey, and made a mild scene. I looked at it and I immediately was able to do the calculations in my mind that big deal. Let them do it. Clearly they were disturbed by the fact of what they were doing, yet that didn't stop them from doing it. And I thought they know what they're doing wrong, and then things have a way of kind of sorting themselves out, and who cares if it's another 3 or 4 minutes of time in the line. So justice won't be served. That's an area of justice I don't care to pursue. And when I got up and got into the checkout thing, the checker thanked me for letting the people cut. Not that it was necessary. Anyway, it had been a while since that had happened, and it was interesting to me to notice how just it wasn't even an issue in the big scope of life. And keeping in mind the horror show, there's so much horror going on in life. Being cut in front of in the line at IKEA doesn't even deserve a second thought. Yeah, maybe it wasn't the right thing to do. Maybe I should have attempted to met out a little bit of justice at that moment, a little social balance, but scale of things. Okay, let's do our objectives. There's more. Yesterday I had a lot of stuff that happened. I'll leave it at that. My objectives and principles. There are 7 objectives. The first of these is to be always ready to die. Number 2 is to make good and effective use of time. Number 3 is to develop good and sound life principles. Number 4 is to cultivate good emotional reactions, like I did yesterday. I think that was probably maybe a part of it. I was trying to. I managed my emotions, right? I was a little bit, taken aback by what they did, but not very much. I guess, apathy, something about the scale of things. That's what I keep coming back to. The next objective is to perform good actions, and then to recognize true limits and true opportunities, and then to just do one thing at a time and to do that thing slowly. Now my 30 objectives, or principles, that is. The first of these is the principle of war, to always be fighting against whatever I think is true and whatever of seeming importance that others propose I should believe is true as well. Number 2 is reason and the sub-principles of honesty, objectivity, and doubt. To use reason as my tool and my way to discern what is in fact actually real and should be believed. Next comes the homunculus, the idea of a little man living inside my head, a mortal that will die with me, my consciousness. Next is anchor hold, the idea of my consciousness standing up on a rock in a vast sea, semaphoring and waving and shouting to others on their own rocks on that sea. None of us ever able crossing that ocean, getting across the water. We're always on our own. After that comes purpose. We each have some purpose, but for me, I choose my purpose to be a father and a husband and a family man, wider extended family, to pursue virtue, where virtue is the pursuit of the well-being of thinking creatures, and then to have some mission. And my mission is sharing the message in my book, Going Alone, which is precisely what I'm doing now. These 7 objectives and 30 principles. The next principle is biology. No. I already talked about that. Atomic principle. Everything is made of bits and pieces, including you and I. And so too, we will be back to those bits and pieces. Next comes the principle of nature. Everything has some particular nature, including you and me, and those people at IKEA yesterday. And it's good to just recognize what that nature is, so that I can abide things better and choose my fights. Next comes the pirate ride, the idea that free will is an illusion, that we can make any choice we want, but we can never make any choice other than the choice that we actually do. Choices that we actually do. Then comes, I knew I forgot one. The Home of Good and Evil. That was back there after the anchor hold. The Home of Good and Evil is the catalog of right and wrong that we collect and manage in our minds. So then after, back up, after atomic principle and the principle of nature comes the pirate ride. I talked about that. And then maturity, and the sub-principle, maturity is the next principle. And the sub-principles of wisdom and fortitude. We are mature when we are wise, when we remember our past, and then we're strong about applying that in the future. Next comes the social principle. We are social creatures, you and me. We need each other. I was going to add something to this. What was it? Oh, felicity. Was that it? No, that's for the next one. We'll add that in just a second. Social creatures, you and me. The next principle is public speaking. To use a few words, slow words, carefully chosen words, deliberate words, and to exercise felicity, or to develop felicity, where felicity is the ability to find the right words and the right language for the moment, and to never ever gossip. Next comes the temperance, and the sub-principles of suffering, simplicity, and apathy. We are temperate when we control our consumption of all things, and that is a simple life when we're temperate. And it is also filled with some suffering when we deny ourselves what we want. And apathy is our ability to react well to the things that are outside of our control. Next comes the horror show. Life is a true horror show. So many terrible things going on. And we live better when we keep that in mind. Not dwell on it too much, but keep it in mind. Then comes the Feast of Woeful, which is what happens when we get upset with the world and we let the whole world know about it. And we spew it out and upset everybody else. And then they do the same, and so on and on and on. That's the feast. Next comes distraction. We distract our lives with work and play and hobbies and everything. And then comes the agency and the great indifference. Simply the idea that life is full of one another, and we have each other, but then outside of each other, and almost outside of everything, of the animal life, outside of life is this big, vast nothing that just doesn't seem to give a damn about us. And what's more, it appears that there are no God or gods, filling the void out there. We seem to be on our own. That's the point. And that's why we distract ourselves. And it's one of the reasons we distract ourselves. We also have to distract ourselves to stay alive and keep our society going. Next comes the best seat in the house. To not want to be anyone else or be anywhere else or be doing anything else, but to be okay with who I am, where I am, and what I'm doing. Next comes, after the best seat in the house, is the path of wildness, which is the way to move into new life from the life that we're living, seeking out a better living, and taking chances. Next comes the risk of avoiding risk, the surface level risk of life, or the safe and sane things of school, family, job, home, retirement, and then the deep level risk of finding ourselves, spending time in life, having some adventures to develop our character and personality and ourself. Next comes the sin and damnation. There are 7 sins in my worldview. These are falsity, credulity, hope, faith, superstition, dogma, authority, and gossip. Complete oblivion is next. When we die, it seems that we are completely gone. Since we have no soul, there'll be nothing left after us, and we will just be gone. So now is the time while we live to cultivate better relationships, to get to reconnect with the people that we want in our lives, and then also to seek after the better life, the justice. Not vigilante justice, but proper justice. Okay, after that comes the Great Life Adventure, which is one or more experiences in life that kind of form the centerpiece of our living. Best experienced at a young age and developed from there. Then comes the Great Life Adventure, time to record what we've learned along the way and to write our own story, to share, to leave as our token of ourselves before we go. Our notes about what we lived. Next comes the bullseye aim, striving for the mark but usually missing. Then is the uphill climb, steady climb forward up through life, ever rising to new heights, better views, or at least more expansive views, but colder air, more rarefied air, harder to breathe the higher we go. Next comes arena and utility. Life is an arena for the pursuit of an exercise of our principles. Nothing is enough. Sometimes it's better to have less. And then lastly, the principle of fun, a reminder to enjoy life along the way, not just all the serious stuff. Okay, that's my good life meditation. Now, planning for the coming day. I have a couple of things I have to do. I'm going to be completing, hopefully, I think I completed the training manual. I sent that to the team on Friday. Hopefully I'll get some feedback today on the sections I added. I have some stuff I want to work on those to make sure I actually understand how they work. And then I want to work on the actual recording of the second lesson. Then I have to send out an email to leadership within our organization to notify them of the coming training course. That's going to take my whole day. I wish you all the best. Thanks for joining me this morning. Be safe, but not too safe.